Hello, and welcome to another Write Once, Read Many. This time covering 26.6 from Arc 26, Sting. As a reminder of the audience participation question, it was 26.6. What are some cool examples of pocket dimensions or small void spaces and such from other media? And also, I decided that more than usual, I think a content warning is warranted. Taylor makes what we will call here a controversial decision in this chapter, and the book also introduces Wildboy, Gray Boy's power, and he uses it to torture people, and it's probably the most like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened, of all the horrible torture powers. So, yes, themes of this chapter, as is often the case, one of the themes is escalation. And you know, I think that the way that Taylor's like, we have to up the ante all at once. We have to like get into the pocket dimension because this is our only chance. I think it even caught Jack by a little bit of surprise. And you know, we see in this chapter that if they hadn't done that, the Slaughterhouse 9 people would have sort of outdone them by having all the clones and such. So, unnecessary upping of the stakes by Taylor, really. So, I guess I'll just get right into it. They're on the Pendragon, the main robot that the main dragon craft that Defiant has been driving around. I think the Uther has been damaged or something. From the other chapters, they had talked about why, but they're using the Pendragon specifically, and Taylor, as well as the others, they're all kind of freaking out a little bit internally. So she's focused on a big box full of bugs, and she's like, I love bugs. I'm just going to focus using my power on the bugs. And then Rachel is also there, and Taylor's feeling like weird about all her connections to everyone. She sees Rachel focusing on her dogs like she's doing with the bugs, but then she looks around the room, and you know, all the gang's all there, like we talked about last time. There's Chevalier, Revel, Defiant, Parian, Foil, Tecton, Hoyden, and you know, Taylor, Rachel, and that's and Golem. That's their whole crew. So they're traveling light for what they're going into, because they're going to be fighting like infinite hordes of the Nilbog creations, you know. More or less, while they defend this dragon craft, which is going to be hacking into the Dodge portal. And you know, they have like resources. It's a metallic big robot craft, but on the other hand, the enemies, as we've seen, are quite dangerous. There's the one that was battering down the walls of Ellisburg is going to show up almost immediately and is going to be part of this main fray. trying to batter their way into the dragon craft. And they use like force fields some of the time, but they're like trying to save on battery because they also need to like split power between the force field and the code cracking thing as well. So they sort of you know, this battle kind of goes on and on. Like, I think it's good, but summarizing it is a bit difficult just because of like even for a parahumans fight, it goes and goes. Once they land the craft, they immediately start hearing like tearing noises, like creatures trying to scratch their way in. The big giant wall knocking down, like rhino styled one is attacking, and it's, you know, described in reasonably strong detail, but I'm not gonna go through what every little gooby monster is like in this particular rundown. And there is okay, before they fully land, there's a funny moment where Taylor's trying to check in with Rachel because she feels like really weird about all her relationships with everybody in the craft, and she's like, she says she feels iffy about all her relationships, but it's just like she spent so much time alienating people and stuff that she doesn't know how to talk to people, is maybe how she's feeling. But Rachel's talking about basically skinning and getting the meat from bison because she's living on the other side of the portal on like a parallel Earth where there's no people in North America, so there's just like you know, the kinds of giant herds of bison or buffaloes or whichever are the ones that are eastern United States area natively. And you know, she is talking about it, and she says this thing, she's worried about her people, says, fucking up good meat, not carving out the fatty bits, or they aren't getting all the blood out. You have to cut deep to bleed the motherfuckers. And then Hoyden hears like a couple words of this and is like, what's going on over there? And Taylor is like, don't worry about it. So that's kind of funny. But you know, they land. They all get into defensive positions, and then they're like, we're going to have to open and go outside and fight, basically. So they open the hatch, the ramp, and, you know, all sorts of Nilbog little critters and monsters try and crawl in at them. And they're just taking them out left and right. They're using all their varied collected powers. They're not doing them like all at once though. Like Revel holds off and blasts people in a minute. I think they're doing a good job. We've seen this many times in like Endbringer fights. They're staggering their attacks. They are waiting for things to come right in front of them, basically. Trying to keep an eye out for long-ranged threats and such. That one, the first girl that Taylor had met when she came inside Ellisburg is there, and she will get run over and trampled by the big thingy, and then when she dies, she swells up and kind of explodes acid goo out, and it's like, this is very grim stuff. Like, I guess we haven't seen this perspective, but we could already infer it. The individual Nilbog creatures are, you know, generally sentient, which adds to the awful horror of his whole shtick. But it does also mean that Taylor is murking a bunch of sentient people and like uh when they blind then like deafen the big rhino creature and it's like stampeding over the other stuff, or when they're like going in uh using the nano thorn to just hack up these monsters. uh it's all very dubious morally. Like, at the same time that I would do these things that Taylor is doing in the situation she's in, uh, it's very fraught afterward. And she compartmentalizes away most of the bad things she ever does. But, you know, who's to say when the dam would break? So it's just more mental strain, more emotional strain. For all of them if they ever take the time to think about it. And let's see here. So, they've got like Chevalier using his cannon blade sometimes. They've got like Tecton punching people with his power gauntlets, his pile drivers. You've got Defiant using the nano thorn. You've got Hoyden constantly like explosion retaliating against people. I feel like Hoyden's one of the most important ones because Hoyden just gets in the front pretty early on and is just like fighting the shit out of everything at the same time. I mean, when you have reactive explosions, it's a pretty good power, I guess. Once that little girl is trampled and detonates, and oh, by the way, Taylor is the reason that the big creature can't see or hear anymore. She's like using her bugs to like eat out its eardrums and eyeballs and stuff. Um, just going like full Taylor mode, like destroy everything. Um, Again, very grim. We're seeing the toll that fighting the Nine takes on you when you go through this. You have to like do more and more crazy and dubious things in all these scenarios. Um, uh, so doot doot doot. Perian has finally got a doll in the fray that's trying to help Rachel's dogs. Like I said, Hoyden's still in the middle of everything, just fighting everyone. Oh, it's Vic. Hello. Um, you'll be happy to know that I issued a content warning at the top for how, I guess I might classify it as like heinous powers use. The Gray Boy stuff later on, but and Taylor making what I describe as a controversial decision in this chapter, which we will get to later. Vic just laughs in the chat. So boop 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 boop. Yeah, I this is like a pretty long fight, but I do feel like I'm summarizing it almost too fast. Oh, Vic says I love Taylor this chapter. Yeah, oh Taylor. She like collapses after she has like a moment of reprieve. She's so on mission. She's the most Taylorist to ever Taylor up to this point. So we're still in the midst of Hoyden apparently killing 2 to 3 creatures with every like punch and kick, so just like constantly. And then Defiant is there backing her up with the Nanothorn spear, and then apparently whenever he misses with the spear, he shoots out jolts of electricity or darts to like finish people off. He's just going ham. They use Chevalier to shoot at the big charging one. And then Golem's like trying to repair the ship intermittently, but they have to be really careful because, as Defiant is pointing out, like when they create the metal for the metal hands that he's making, then it's like creating matter, so it's making the ship heavier and more off balance. So he wants to like repair the ship with containment foam to cover the gaps. But I don't know. It's dubious that they would be flying away from this scenario. The like pros of the book are part of what's compelling, I think, and the way that there's always weaving in stuff like this, the perils of physics-defying powers. Golem and Rachel both broke the laws of conservation of mass, and now we risk paying for that. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's 2 dragon's teeth here. They do some stuff. It's mentioned that they step forward for Golem, but not a lot is discussed about how they fight the creatures. So Taylor doesn't really think of non-powered people very much. Just not important, you know? So, when they're really starting to get swarmed, you know, they start busting out more and more powers. Like Foil is using a rapier, and given Foil's power, it can just like infinity cut through these things. You gotta think about all the other universes where there's like a normal Ellisburg that didn't get taken over by goblins, and this area suddenly they're just getting like the shit slashed out of them by Foil's rapier in like all dimensions. You gotta wonder how many people she just took out during this fight. The moral ambiguity of using their powers. And then yeah, so they be fighting. There's creatures scratching their way inside. You hate it when they scratch your ship. Vic says, don't worry about the ethical consequences of Foil's actions. That's a good point. I shouldn't worry about it. We support lesbian rights and lesbian wrongs. Agreed. Women's rights and women's wrongs. But yeah, they're getting dents, gouges, acid pockmarks, all sorts of problems. And Taylor makes the world's least convincing plea. Like, goddamn, when I heard her say this, I'm like, you didn't start with this? She says, Nilbog's creatures. I spoke, raising my voice. I spoke through my bugs outside. We mean no harm. We will bring you back, your king. She says this after she, like, has been murderizing people for minutes and, like consuming eyeballs and stuff. Nothing but cries of rage and hate in response. No use. 30 seconds now. Come on, Taylor. Come on. So yeah, they're doing worse and worse. The ship is like falling apart. They will say several times like, "Oh, what about if we need to take off?" And it's like, this ship is never leaving the ground again. So the big like charging rhino one, because it's not really a rhino. It's like half a rhino, half a million other things. So it kind of leaps, and one foot gets on top of the craft when it gets its shitty leap. And then it sort of like tearing itself apart, like, and like rumbling the ship around and stuff. Foil gets a quip in about how she goes, I thought you said this thing was tough. And then Taylor calls out for them to put up the force field, so they get the force field going for a bit to buy them some time, and then they're like worried about the countdown clock, and they're looking at the countdown clock, and then Defiant's basically like, I got bad news for you. This is a maybe clock. This isn't like a countdown to 0 and we get it clock. This is a gonna take a couple extra minutes kind of clock. And then Hoyden gives us the, it's not a guarantee. And Taylor thinks, nothing's a guarantee. Right before Defiant goes, I never guarantee anything. And then Defiant, being a total emotional baby about Dragon, says, except a select few promises I make to people I love and people I hate. He's being so extra right now for him. Like, for a lot of people that would not be that big a deal, but for Defiant, he's being extra as hell right now. He's like practically listening to emo music from the 2010s. Sorry, the early 2000s, not 2010s. Needs to be older school because he lives in the year 2013. Let's see here. Yeah, so Rachel's dogs are chewing some people. Taylor's knifing some people. Even Hoyden is freaked out and apparently shrieks, says, I'm getting buried, Hoyden shrieked. Yes, she'd been targeted by some critters that were dissolving into a slurry as they burned, with tendrils extending out to draw in the wounded and dead. But yeah, so they're having like problems fighting because like Hoyden can't stop using her power or she'll get got, and Taylor uses one of her precious bullets in her gun, and she's like, damn it, I need those. And then they're finally like questioning if they should leave, if this is even gonna work. Golem and Tecton seem more and more dubious about Defiant by the moment. And Tecton has been telling him about like structural integrity problems with the ship since the fight started. Defiant is calling out to Saint directly, and by name even, that they need the Azazels. And Taylor puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that Defiant is out. And she just, like, without asking any questions, goes, I'm going to fucking kill Saint. And Defiant's yelling at him over the comms that this is not a suicide mission and they need backup. And Saint's like, no. And then Defiant, after the conversation with Saint is over, just tells all the other people, like, where to find Saint. They're like, even if only one of us survives, we gotta kill that guy. And the way he says it, Saint took down Dragon, and he just left us to die. The Azazels are apparently better deployed elsewhere. You know, they're still fighting the many things by having like Golem punch hands up at things, but finally Revel unleashes the lantern of spheres and such, and when she does, then as we saw with like Behemoth, These things just cut through like living enemy targets, you know, practically as good as Foil's attack cuts through them. So there's just huge gaping holes in tons and tons of the enemies, and she's like zigzagging them so that they're going all over the place, hitting tons of spots, and it kills off the big charging one, having a bunch of large holes carved out of it with the electro flame ball things. And then Defiant, in the moment when Hoyden isn't using explosions all the time, uses a grappling hook to immediately grab Hoyden and pull her in. And then, I mean, the first attempt, the device, she still has another stray explosion that destroys it, but he does like a secondary yank of a different chain kind of thing. And then once she's inside, then he hits the force field button, and the force field goes up. Everyone inside is safe for a second. Apparently, creatures die as they contact the force field, so this is some dangerous tech, but it does make them hesitate. Vic is saying, every time someone implied the ship wasn't strong, I could feel Defiant's rage. He's like, what the fuck do you want from me? Yeah, I know. But I like that once he's done fighting, like, he immediately, like, insta-drops his spear, like a D&D character moving from action to action, and goes to the computer and is, like, beep-booping to try and speed up the hacking process of the portal. And he actually calls in 2 asks from Dinah. Like, he considers this to be, like, a moment of truth worth using their power on. And I agree. And he eliminates the top half of the list twice. They know that whatever brute force thing they're doing is in the bottom quarter of the remaining stuff. He considers that enough. And then he turns off the force field to get, like, tons of power back, and he's just pumping it all through the computer. So it takes the Nilbug creatures a few moments to be sure if they should move forward, because of course they were dying on contact before. Not an ideal situation. And then they do charge in. They're like trying to scratch their way past. Defiant goes, back up, now, huddle! And then we did, swiftly retreating until we were clustered around the center of the cabin, shoulder to shoulder, our backs to the device. My bugs filled the gaps. The creatures, in turn, gibbered, squealed, screeched, and roared. They howled and stomped and drummed fists on chests. Impacts made Golem's hands bend, and I could hear a dozen points where they were grabbing at the plates of metal and straining to bend and peel them. That horrible sound in innumerable places around the craft. And then silence. Darkness. Air rushed around us, equalizing throughout a vast, empty space. Out of the frying pan, into the fire, I thought. And yeah, so I like that. I think I wrote this lower as well, but the little touch that they are in, like, complete darkness and silence as they arrive. Very good stuff. And Taylor had hard-packed as many bugs as she could with them, so she's got a good amount going into this environment, even though it's mostly a bugless environment, because there's no way for them to, like, naturally seep in. And right away they start hearing Jack's voice, so that is very ominous. But and they'll put on their, like, lamps and stuff, and then Jack says right away that he's just talking through Screamer. He isn't actually near them. But Taylor's like, oh no, now we can't not listen to him for like the infection protocol. So it's like we're getting C-merged this whole time. And Jack is pontificating about liking this part of the conflict. And then Taylor's giving orders. And their priority target first is Screamer. Jack is, pontificating on his ideals more. He's saying that he's an artist, etc. He has disagreements with Bonesaw about the interactions between an artist and their audience. And then he starts talking to Theo. He's like, always, hey, Theodore. Jacking it up, hamming it up. And Taylor's describing the area. It's kind of a unique space. It says, the area was vast and empty. Every surface was granite, rough, but not so much that it would be painful to walk on with bare feet. The wiring was crude, small flood lamps strung out in strings like oversized, colorless, exceptionally boring Christmas lights. Wires had been stapled against the walls, fixing them in straight lines, but the excess draped loose at the bases of those same walls. So, yeah, it's like a half put together installation practically, because, they don't really care about aesthetics. And then while she's going down these corridors, trying not to focus on Jack too much, this is when he introduces that Grey Boy is actually going after Aster right now. And then this alarms them, of course, because Grey Boy is the worst of Jack's minions. The one that was so bad that you couldn't even clone him because he's just too evil. And then Jack is like, Defiant says that they can't communicate with anyone while they're in here. They don't have a way to reach out. But Jack has Grey Boy hooked up with like a camera, and so he is displaying on screens there that are sort of in the complex this camera feed from Grey Boy, where Grey Boy is going to the safe house where Crusader, Purity, and then a bunch of PRT officers are trying to defend Aster. And yeah, so they're gonna show them the feed of that. Although I wasn't sure. I thought this was pre-recorded video because Grey Boy's already back. So I'm pretty sure this is all pre-recorded and they're just sending the video through the feed. But it is quite awful. As they walk through, they find a whole bunch. It says crystalline pillars that are vats, cloning vats, each marked with the name of one of the 9. They were full. Babies floated within each. Babies! Vic says it was a live stream. It was just really laggy. Whoops. Well, it's a good thing you're here to correct the record. But yes. Cherish informs Jack that they found all the babbies in the clone tubes. And he was like, it was my extra surprise that there'd be a round 2 of the clones that pop up and appear. It was an easy gambit, but also if you did arrive, you'd have to spend time eliminating them. And Chevalier tries to be like, we'll just have somebody stay behind to finish them off. And then Jack is like, haha, but we did a double trick. We have put in some crawlers, and you have to use the specialized area to kill off the crawler clones. And, you know, he's doing all this, and they're like, oh my god. This is so annoying. Taylor thinks about, like, using her bugs to kill all the babies. With the special device. And, you know, this is like an ethical nightmare. And Defiant's just like, look, guys, it's fine. I'm just gonna collapse the dimension when we leave. It'll be fine. Chevalier says, how fast? Defiant goes, fast. Jack is sad that they, like, found a workaround. He says that's poor sportsmanship. And then, this is when they're getting the video feed going. And, so Revel tells Golem not to watch, but Golem stares at the screen. And as Golem watches the video feed, Taylor and all the others just keep moving. They need to actually address the problem that's happening. They're taking slightly different routes. They're walking between columns of vats and such. We're at the point where when Taylor splits off and is alone, then that's the part where the art is from, as far as I can tell. And she's on like spiral stairs? Is that what I'm looking at, Vic? But anyway, we will get response in a moment. Greyboy says, there we go, which made me think of Richard Iowade as the sales clerk from Neo Yokio going, there we go. And so that actually really made me laugh when I was re-listening to this chapter. Even though I do feel like Greyboy's stuff is so awful that it almost does flip around to being, like, comical in a way. It's just, like, the most awful, evil thing that you could, like, think of. Like, which is a lot of stuff in Worm. In Worm, they're just like, what's the worst thing? Oh, this is the worst thing. Taylor thinks back to Killington. We had what is in the text up to this point unexplained Greyboy victim who has been looping, who isn't dead and is time loop tortured. And then Greyboy has already captured the PRT officers in the loops. So he has not, like, injured them yet, but they're stuck in time loops, which means they're already completely done for. There's no way to save them. And then, Greyboy tells the PRT officer that if she tells him a story, then she'll make it painless. And then starts, like, cutting up her partner in front of her, and her, like, you know, officer partner, not, like, romantic partner. But this guy, this other officer, it's unclear because Taylor's not, like, looking, or, like, not, like, narrating every little thing that's happening, but it's unclear what he's doing until he Greyboy keeps sort of talking to them and talking in a way that it tells us, the audience, what he's doing. When he's cutting the guy, he's cutting up his face. And And Gray Boy, when he time loops somebody, they're like stuck in this short loop that he can alter the length of to like, a few more seconds or a few fewer seconds, and then he can also get into the time loop bubble thing and like cut or burn or stab or what have you, do whatever, and then nobody else can really break past the barrier, and it's like inviolable, like Clockblocker's power was to Siberian, where the Siberian thing shorted out. So it's like that level of power. However, I kind of think Foil's power would break through it anyway. But yeah, Gray Boy's doing the bad stuff. He's torturing people, and let's see here. Taylor's forcing herself to keep moving, etc. She's talking to Rachel. They're not able to track people with the dog she has. Vic says, yes, this is when Taylor... this is when Taylor... this is Taylor when she leaves the dogs and heads up the spiral staircase on her way to Pew Pew Pew. Yeah. So this is when they can't track with the dogs. Golem is watching Purity, who he refers to by first name, of course, Caden, get got by Gray Boy, and she tries to throw Aster out the window to kill her that way, but then Gray Boy stops her from doing so and is able to grab Aster, and then tortures Purity by stabbing her and doing a bit more. He's doing the most. Aster is crying, but Caden tells Aster to go with Gray Boy because basically Gray Boy's saying if you don't, I'm gonna use my power on her and then burn her body all over with matches, and then she'll be burned, tortured forever and ever. And it's goddamn, Gray Boy, I'll tell her to go with you. Jeez. And then yeah, Taylor's continuing. It's open, empty space before reaching a complicated, almost labyrinthine tunnel network. And then she's using bugs, of course, to find her way through the area better. And then, we keep hearing the Gray Boy thing. We hear Aster crying and stuff. Gray Boy is getting sick of it. Apparently Gray Boy has a high voice too, though, so he's like a horror movie villain where he's like one of those, a child who sings a nursery rhyme at you, probably. You know the types I mean. There's so many horror movies where the ad is just a child singing a nursery rhyme. I gotta take a moment for a soup. Pause for soup. Usually there are not soup breaks on this, but this time. So anyway, with the soup break almost over, well, all these awful things are happening. Yes. Gray Boy is very verbose. He's explaining his power in detail, both to his victims and to us, the audience. And And he's like one of those like little Mokuba type kids where you're like, I'm gonna drop kick you so hard. Um, Nobody's mad when a gray boy type gets murked. And yeah, Gray Boy just sort of goes through power specifics, and we get a marvel in the horror of the permanent like torture loops, etc. And then he goes out into the area where the well, he's already got Crusader in a loop, but he goes out to the area where the PRT officer is and asks to know. She tells him a bunch of stuff that they were briefed on Jack and all these how he's supposed to end the world, and they talk about all these teams that are helping them, like the specific people. Goes through a list, and then Taylor's like, oh no, he's gonna look up all the wiki articles. Although I will say, it would be hard to look up a wiki article that would tell you what the Tonda do, or the like active members of the Irregulars, because there's a lot of their powers where they just like keep it under wraps what they actually do. I mean, people still don't even know what Taylor or Tattletale does, so they're like, she's a thinker probably. And yeah, so this agent gives up all their information, and Taylor says how it was a consideration of being tortured forever or selling out billions of lives, and why not get tortured forever and sell out billions of lives is what they said. It's unclear to me if Night and Fog were also time looped, but we can only hope. It couldn't have happened to nicer people. Yeah, then this is okay, so it is live because Jack is like reacting to the information as though it's brand new news to him, and it doesn't seem like it's an act. And then he's thinking about how he can be the catalyst for the end of the world, where it won't count as some other cape, where it'll distinctly be his credit for the kill, more or less. And then is talking about how he's been listening in to Harbinger and getting advice from them. And Harbinger, as we can sort of put together as audience members, is the number man. So the Harbinger clones all have his super math brain. And Taylor, Jack is still talking while Taylor moves up. He's talking about, like, if they could Gray Boy Scion, maybe, all these things. Like, oh, what could we do? Maybe if we kill the right person. Yeah, Taylor finally comes across 200 members of the Nine and a whole bunch of Nilbog creations with control frames. And they're all just sort of standing in, like, formed ranks. Because Jack, as he'll say, has, like, turned them all off for now with the control frames. Taylor thinks to herself, 2 years of emotion caught up with me in a single instant. I felt fear grip me, anxiety seizing my entire body, adrenaline flooding through my body. She calls out her secret passphrase. I'm using my first priority passphrase, Danny and the Rose. Look for the flare. Tecton says that her message was received, although that could theoretically be Screamer. I don't think Tecton's been talking at all, so I don't know if she could use his voice. since she wouldn't have had time to pick it up and mimic it yet. And then, you know, she nods to Rachel, and then, Jack's still blabbering about, what he's doing, and then, I wasn't sure what I could do, but there had to be something. And then she reaches the top of the stairs, and she's ready. I held my gun. The sole remaining cherish said something, a murmur. And then Jack starts addressing Weaver directly. She's talking back to him. Gray Boy is with Jack now, so they're back. And then, this is when he admits that he's turned off the other clones. For now, they're just standing still. Purity had said earlier, I have to try. And so Taylor also says, I have to try, as far as stopping Jack. And he says, such sad, small words. And Taylor's thinking about possibilities. Kind of like it's very similar to Arc 11, and then very similar also to Arc 14. In both of those, Taylor is having like these, well, actually no, sorry, Arcs 12 and 14, I guess. Taylor has these moments where she's like, I could kill Jack right now if I just drop everything and kill him, but I would die. So she decides yet again that it's not going to work out because Jack would be revived by Bonesaw, so she can't be sure. Jack starts chastising Taylor, saying, you're too big for your boots, Weaver. And then Taylor counters with, I bet people said the same thing about you. And then Jack is basically saying, Jack more or less just is like, but I'm better than you. And he displays that he doesn't really know Taylor. He still thinks that she got her power because her mom died. Which is just still incorrect. And then Jack says that he'll go one-on-one with her, tries to sort of tempt her into it, and she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then she feels like someone's coming through a door. She's like, oh no, it's a hostage. I'm shooting at a hostage. But the person that she shoots was a nice guy. And since he couldn't see her and didn't fully know where she was, then he couldn't fully apply his power to her. So it only worked to a certain degree where she thought he might be an innocent person. But lucky for us, Taylor's so ruthless that she was able to move past the trap. Jack tells her that's impolite. And then starts like trying to threaten her with like, I'm gonna grab you with the Siberian and then use Bonesaw and Gray Boy to ultra mega torture you. Ha 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 ha. And then the others start arriving, and then Taylor steps through the doorway. There's a bit here where Taylor thinks about why she thinks back to her fight in Arc 13, I think, against Mannequin in the big post firebombing fight where he's also fighting Weld, and she was able to hit Mannequin back then because of something she's consciously thinking of now, which is that having bugs over the entire area make her brain into like ultra targeting computer brain. So she's really good at aiming within an area where she has this bug supremacy, full control. Let's see here. So yeah, the final remaining Siberian walks over to defend Jack, and then Taylor doesn't bother shooting at Jack because of this, and she doesn't position herself so that she's in sight of Grey Boy or Jack. She shoots Cherish and Screamer in the face and kills both of them. It says, "My bullet took Cherish in the head. Another bullet struck Screamer. I hesitated. Then I shot Aster, who was held in a Hatchet Face's arms." And yes, I did have a weird line read there, but it was the line read of the man from that weird video going, "Then I shot Aster." But yes. Pivotal moment where Taylor shoots a toddler to stop her from getting time loop tortured. Vic said, "Good call killing Cherish first. She could do so much damage." Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of these powers, if not held back, would be a lot worse, but Jack is kind of like, for him it's got to be this like fine balance. He's not trying to use too much at any one time, and yeah, Cherish could probably turn some of them against each other, etc. But yeah, my word, she kills off the Theo's sister, and it's a good thing that nobody else was in the room to see this. She looks around to try and find Manton to kill him, but then Grey Boy's moving around, and she can feel that happening, so she gets the fuck out of there. She's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. She turned, activating her flight pack for a boost of speed. But yeah, this whole thing is happening, and then she gives the signal, and Revel and Foil both light the room up, and it says, they open fire, their energy orbs and bolts tearing through the walls and into the rank and file of the Slaughterhouse 9. "No!" Jack ordered. "Siberian, with us! The remotes are programmed?" "Yes," Bonesaw reported, or "Yes." "We go! Divide into groups. One major target each." And then Jack sort of sends people on their way through portals in very quick succession. It says, his Siberian touching him, Manton and Bonesaw, as the bolts and orbs continued to tear through his crowd, 1 or 2 dead every second. So we can only hope that the initial onslaught took out tons and tons of them, because 1 or 2 dead every second isn't that many when there's 200. Let's see here. Yeah, it says Bonesaw paused, then broke away, joining her crowd before hitting the remote. They disappeared. Another group gone. And then the remaining 3 disappeared all at once. And then it says Taylor at this point collapses at the bottom of the staircase. And it's from she says, well, she thinks, panting from, not from exertion, but the sheer panic of what I'd done. Yeah. So she's like unable to deal with what she's done, to the point where she's like physically broken down and is just on the floor with like, it's even for Taylor, this is pretty extreme action. Um, so, yeah, anyway, uh, it's like I both want to get mired in the craziness of the fact that she killed Aster, and I'm like, don't know what to say about it, and I'm like, also like, yeah, I should move along. But yeah, she's relaying the information she can. Chevalier wants them to give chase, and Defiant's gonna hack into the mainframe, etc. Um, Taylor says when Golem and Revel get there, Aster's dead. I'm sorry, I said. Did you? He started, then he stopped, staring down at me. Never mind. Sorry for asking. Whatever happened, it's for the best. And then she doesn't think that he believed it. Says he didn't sound like he believed it. He didn't sound confident in the least. It's for the best, I thought, as Golem joined Chevalier and Defiant in heading up the stairs. She tells Defiant at his request the order that they left. I mean, we don't get that detailed. It's just what's happening. And so they're going to follow them, eliminate this place as an escape route by like collapsing the dimension or whatever. And then it says at the end, which meant we knew which way Jack had gone, and he couldn't run anymore. Final encounter. I think it ends really well. Yeah, there's some shocking content in this of Taylor shooting Aster. And I guess as far as final chapter thoughts, this chapter again, like all the other ones in this arc, is like jam packed. It's like in the audiobook, it's a half an hour before they complete the portal and teleport into the Dodge dimension space. It's like nearly 20 minutes of fighting and like 10 minutes of lead in or whatever. It's probably more than 20 minutes of fighting actually. But it's just all that, and I think it does still have moments of levity throughout. For the audience, not for the characters within. The characters housed within have no moments of levity. And I think that like the twists and turns of like now there's another batch of clones that's gonna happen, and then like them being able to thwart that, and then there being so many of the 9 in one room, but then being able to like use this to their advantage since Jack was like, I'm just gonna be lazy about this. Like I can't manage them all at once, and then just got loads and loads of his clones destroyed. I feel like Taylor's bold action in this chapter, not necessarily the Aster thing, but like them getting into this portal through Ellisburg is like such a big deal. Like them getting this head start on all these other things and them closing this off as a like as they said, an escape route. It's just so important to what's happening, and it's the only way they can sort of actually end this. I think I think I found this chapter very shocking when I first read it. I think most people do. Like, but I was so caught up in Taylor's like way of thinking when I had first read it that I was like also simultaneously shocked and like, well, I guess you gotta shoot the baby because what else do you do? She's just gonna get gray boyed. So yes, Jack is able to effectively set up these scenarios to like grind you down as a person, and has done this to not only Theo but also to Taylor. Um. We still know there's like loads and loads of the 9 left. Moving from the chapter thoughts to like arc stuff. This is the last Taylor chapter of the arc, but it is far from over. There are, I think, 3 remaining interludes. There's 2 that are both from the same perspective, interludes A and B. And then there is, an interlude that does not have a letter next to it. I'm going to call it 26. It's 26.x, but there's a different 26.x earlier, so I'm going to call this 26.y. But yes, so we got 3 weeks of chapters coming up that are all interludes, which will be quite transformative to the story for those new readers. And then, let's see here. Yeah, so, we're going from a desperate plan in this chapter with an elite squad to then suddenly being in the belly of the beast when they actually make the dodge portal work. And its powers and science base, it fits the setting, but it's the same concept of having to leave the normal world into like an evil plane or dimension to find the lair of, say, a demon or a skull lord or whatever. And Jack and the rest are probably worse than whatever you'd find in like an evil zone normally. Far worse than your common skull lord. But you get my point anyway. It's very mythological feeling when they transfer into this dimension, to me. Especially because the way that they get here is to go through Ellisburg, which is like the most like fucked up, weird like place in North America probably. They're like, you have to go in to the evil goblin zone where there's unlimited different monster creatures who all want to kill you in different ways. And then from there, you can get into the even worse place. And it's a good transition point of, like, by closing off the pocket dimension and by, like, entrapping them to whatever locations they're sending themselves to with this final, like, exit, they can really have a confrontation where Jack can't just slip away. There are theoretically still some powers like Chuckles or whatever where, like, the clown could just scoop him up and run away with him, but we're kind of getting a signal from the story that kind of thing isn't going to happen. I do feel like the story doesn't like bait and switch that often. If you are kind of in tune with what it's trying to do, it's pretty clear that it's saying like being very upfront with that final line saying final encounter. It's not just Taylor thinking something that sounds hardcore. Anyway, moving on to the characters for a bit. We got Rachel. We get a little bit of nice backstory of her, not backstory, middle story between in the time skip of her living off normal Earthbet in Earth Gimmel and like hunting, and how Tattletale sent through somebody to teach them how to like skin and cure meat or whatever, like all the different jobs that you need to do to actually harvest the food from a bison if you kill it. And then it's it's, as I said when we were going over it, there's a comedy moment there. And Taylor sticks with Rachel once they're in the pocket dimension the longest. It's only at the very last moment where she breaks off from her. And Taylor's worried about her bond with Rachel, but it doesn't seem to be a two-way street on that. Rachel seems fine with her. Arian and Foyle, we don't really get a lot from them. Taylor just sees them and is like guilty about how she's affected their lives. Like every time she's looking at someone, what she's really saying is, I feel guilty that I have affected your life. That seems to be her main feeling about each relationship anyway. So that's Perry and Foyle. They they do some fighting and stuff, and they're normally competent, but they don't get a lot of characterization. It's funny that Foyle yells at Defiant about the ship not being tough enough. Then we got Tecton. Tecton and Golem start like seriously doubting Defiant, like, is this not gonna work? And even Hoyden is like, oh my god, we're fucked. This isn't gonna work. So they're all three sort of in alignment on that. But seemingly Chevalier and Revel never go through that process. They're like pot committed from the start. But Tecton is worried at various moments about the structural integrity of the ship they're in, and is like, look, I know you built this ship, but I have my own tinker brain that's telling me, well, actually not just a tinker brain, he's also got a thinker brain that's telling him that the ship has taken too much damage. Hoyden, we see that Hoyden still gets scared despite being the like ultimate murder factory, like powerhouse of the team. Seems unstoppable when she really gets going, kind of thing. But I don't know. I always think it's a joy to get to see Hoyden fight. She's just like an entire line of capes by herself. Revel like completely turns the tides in the first battle, and then is like perfect to kill off the crowd of the 9 in the second, or the ending part of the chapter. So we get to see Revel sort of a bide their time and strike at the right moment type of person. And obviously we've seen the power go off before, but Revel, unfortunately, despite being Taylor's team leader for like a long time, being the Protectorate member in charge of her wards team, then we still don't get that many scenes with Revel. Chevalier, he just kind of does his thing. He is in the right place at the right time in the fights. Defiant is actually pretty damn sassy in these chapters, the way that he's interacting with the others. And I agree with what Vic had said earlier, where every time somebody implies the ship's not good enough, he's like, what do you want? What the fuck is your problem? I didn't really mention it as we were going through, but Tattletale does talk to them over the comms and stuff until they get into the facility. So she's helping them during the battle. Oh, I didn't write Saint on this little list. Saint, you will also be here. Saint will be after Tattletale. Tattletale's cheery as ever. I mean, she's still Overwatch for tons and tons of places, but yeah, don't have anything to say about Tattletale. Saint, everybody hates him. Nobody loves him. Defiant's last words are go to Toronto to kill Saint. Don't tell my parents I love them, just kill Saint. Really specific instructions. PRT officers get time looped and perma-tortured. That's a pretty bad draw of things. Like, to be put as bodyguard duty for specifically the like little girl that is a revenge target of Jack. So yeah, they get a raw deal of those PRT officers. I'll say that. Caden and Justin, they get perhaps, you know, I have my feelings about these characters, and maybe I think it's fine when it happens to Justin. I don't know if Night and Fog stayed or if they fled, but it would be kind of funny if Fog was permanently just a cloud. He's stuck as a cloud inside a time loop. Also, like, Night, I think, could turn into the thingy. I don't know. I think that being time looped would not be as bad if you were a weird automaton person like Night and Fog who has a broken brain. So we can just pretend like they got by Grey Boy. Moving on to Grey Boy, we can see that this iteration of Grey Boy, it's told to us like multiple times that Grey Boy wasn't really like this. He couldn't operate a camera, but also he just had like a completely different personality. I think it's implied in other stuff that he kind of couldn't control where his power went, so it would just sort of happen to people around him and stuff, and he wasn't that attuned to what was going on in the world around him. But in this, we can see that he's like a weird sadistic fuck, which will come up and be plot relevant in the next 2 chapters. Because he's like, you know, he's doing evil stuff, and he has like a specific weird mindset that he's following, and Grey Boy ends up being just a little too much for Jack to handle. Vic says, I get the sense that Bonesaw selfishly made him more like her. Huh. Maybe he is more like her. Yeah. Weird. I hadn't thought about it that way. But you're right. I wrote here Bonesaw and clones. And then also in just to us and me, I wrote, if only she had been cloned. Clonesaw. But yes. I feel like Jack's whole thing about like, oh, you're too big for your boots, like, it really is that he bit off more than he could chew with this big giant like plan. There were too many capes for him to control. Things are slipping through the cracks. Like, having dozens and dozens, possibly over 100 of your minions like killed off because you weren't fast enough to get out of the room or whatever, like, and because he couldn't have them have free will at the moment because he couldn't like manage them. It's all like, it's kind of falling apart because Taylor's pressing her luck so far. So, yeah, the Grey Boy, Bonesaw, clones, Jack dynamic. We can see the strain in the end of this chapter. I put Golem and Aster as one line. What a horrible life for Aster, that she grows up to be like 2 or whatever, and everybody thinks she's gonna turn into a super powerful 3rd generation cape, and instead her mom gets time loop forever tortured, and then she is kidnapped and put in the arms of a giant monster and then shot in the face. It's a pretty unfortunate path for a life to go down, and again, like, this is a setting with things so horrible where could have been worse. Was almost worse. Just like, goddamn. You don't want to be on the wrong end of Jack. Because sometimes you'll have your whole life set out for you from the time you're a baby, and your brother tries to fight a supervillain. As for Golem, I mean, like, again, this is just like, he sees Caden get time looped, and he's like, this is almost too much to handle emotionally. And then, like, with the prospect of that happening to Aster as well, and then, like, with Aster getting killed, it's just like, this guy can't catch a break. I do think it would have been even worse if he'd come into the room and Aster was perma-torture looping in the room when he arrived. Choices. Taylor made some choices. She's had a whole career of having to go hard in the paint and do stuff that's morally dubious and against the grain, and had to make the hard calls. But this for her is about as far as things have ever gone. This is the most this is like by far the most questionable thing that she's done up to this point in the story, I think. Yeah. And again, like, I am not arguing that it is not reasonable within the setting, yada yada yada. I'm just saying the extremities that she has been pushed to are quite far, like, further than I think most audience members could have predicted at the beginning of the story. You know, when you think of, like, oh, Taylor's going to do something morally dubious, you think, like, oh, she's going to have to kill a villain, like what she did to Coil. But even that situation was more like, she has to kill someone who's unarmed and cornered, and then, like, that was already maybe worse than a lot of people probably expected, and then this is so far beyond the pale compared to that. Like, the moral choices, they don't get easier over time for Taylor. I feel like I really sped through that characters section, but this is just like a high action chapter, and like I'm saying, I'm struggling to find the words to talk about the Golem Aster Taylor situation, and hopefully Vic and I can give you a better, and keep expanding on the little that I've said in the next two chapters, and all of our feelings will get out on the table about this subject. Yeah, I'm gonna move on from it. We'll see Taylor from outside her perspective next chapter, and that will give us perhaps more insight, as well as, of course, seeing from Golem's perspective, giving us a lot of insight. But the powers, knowledge, and world building. I took a quote here. And then silence, darkness, air rushed around us, equalizing throughout a vast, empty space. And yeah, I like that it's dark and such when they arrive. It feels, again, like a action scene becomes horror scene. It was already action horror with the things that attacking, having random evil goblin bodies. But it then, becomes like a spooky, like The Woman in Black type situation. And The Woman in Black, in a way, she kind of gray boys people. She gets children and even adults to kill themselves in various ways, and then their souls are trapped forever. So they're permanently soul tortured for all time by a ghost. Um, isn't that nice? A ghost? Yes, and I grabbed this. Having bugs over the entire area, I had a sense of the area, of the topography of where everything was. It wasn't perfect, but it was an advantage, something to help aim the shot, to help give me a sense of the path the bullet would travel. It was like being able to reach out with my arm in a perfectly straight line, touch my target, then aim along the line. The same effect I'd granted Foil so she could snipe Tyrant. Yeah, I think it's good that it gets explained explicitly here, like that she has more experience, just because it's like she realizes how she was able to do the past mannequin shot. It's not only that we get it explained to us as the audience, but that we learn how much Taylor has self-reflected and that she has learned about herself, etc. So it's doing several things at once. What else we got? Yeah, for the world building, I mean, seeing this dodge dimension from the hero's point of view and not just Bonesaw's weird perspective. I guess I didn't realize how huge the complex was in the Bonesaw chapter. I thought it was more small scale and contained or whatever. But Bonesaw's just not really thinking about how do I creep through this place. She was just thinking about the experiments themselves. So different focus. I think the second wave of clones was a really good plan from the villains, but and like even the oh, you'll have to do a special thing to kill the crawlers, like that was a smart plan. But it did not get them into a mental rut where they couldn't think through the kind of obvious, oh, then we should just bypass that and collapse this reality instead. And I don't know. I think it was like really interesting the way that the dodge, like portal or however we want to say it worked, or the device that Defiant had that mimicked it. Like the fact that there was no like pulling sensation, no swooping, no like flash of light, no sound. It was just like you're here, and suddenly you're there, with no other changes. That was cool. Oh my word! I didn't turn off the notifications. Classic. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm through to the end faster than I thought I would be. We're at audience participation. What are some cool examples of pocket dimensions or small void spaces and such from other media? Vic had said, the Locked Tomb series has a type of dimension alongside the normal dimension called the River. The river contains the souls of the dead, but also you can travel through it physically? ? I don't know, man. It's like a wormhole or something, but sometimes powerful people are trapped in the river and they're able to make their own pocket dimensions that do all kinds of cray stuff. They do indeed do a lot of cray stuff. The Discord user A Speck of Dust said, in the web serial Catalepsis, there is a pocket dimension that was created by an extra-dimensional being as it was dying, which takes the form of a square mile or so of the English town it landed on, made entirely out of jade, with a calcified, vaguely flesh-like substance underneath it. It's described in the text as being like a chameleon's neurons firing randomly in its last moments before death. Crazy stuff. So that's a cool pocket dimension. And then I had said vaguely flesh-like substance underneath it. Not flesh-like, Victoria. Flesh-like. Oh my word. So my answer was that I had been thinking of Closed Space from the anime Haruhi, or the light novels, whatever you want. It's not always exactly the same, but generally Closed Space is like a mirror world of like our own world, including buildings and stuff, and things that don't exactly make sense happen. Like, things will still get electricity even though the closed space isn't large enough to get to where like the power generators or whatever are. So it just follows its own rules, and it only covers like a small area and sort of voids out. Vic said, just confirming. Yes. And then I had also thought of another example because I've been playing Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and the general idea of that game, like story-wise, is that you're going into these like purpley eldritch voids, and you go in and help repair the void and restore the land to like normal. And if people or creatures fall into the voids, then they can be used as like evil mimics can come out. Like the game starts with the King of Hyrule being like replaced by a mimic and being like, you must capture Zelda and execute her. And they're like, isn't that your daughter, bro? And he's like, trust me. And they do trust him. But you gotta seal up all these evil void dimensions, just like Defiant seals the void. And the unfortunate thing is that I do not have a question ready for 26.A. I'm hoping that I will have those ready. I'm just gonna put my answers in the chat like a weirdo. My answers, and paste and separate and bang. So yes, I'll do my best to come up with a question, and then I will post it on the Discord, and then next episode I'll read it as a reminder at the top of the stream as though this never happened, and all was well. I am going to start out that spooky outro and start reading all the scary links. So, the music used here, as has been true for this arc, is Dark Ambient Music - Asylum 01 by CO.AG Music. The YouTube link for this song can be found in the description of this stream, as well as the others in this arc. All the other links can be found in the stream description and the channel description, such as our Discord link, the link to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow, the full text of the entire work at parahumans.wordpress.com, and the fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And I will let the remainder of this spooky track play, and then see you next time. And to you, Vic, I mirror your bye.